Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Amunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jayam Vishnupad Paramhansa Pariprajakacharya Stotra Sutta Sri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramhansa Pariprajakacharya Stotra Sutta Sri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Samveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Okay. Yeah, thank you. That's true. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We read from Srimadbhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 8. Dhruva Maharaj leaves home. Text 6. Ata Kirtaye Vamsam Punya Kirte Kuru Udvaha Swayambhuvasya Api Mano Hare Angsha Janmana Atata Kirtaye Vamsham Punya Kirte Kurudvaha Swayambhuvasyapi Manor Hare Shamsha Janmana Atata Kirtaye Vamsham Punya Kirte Kurudvaha Swayambhuvasyapi Manor Hare Shamsha Janmana Atata Kirtaye Vamsham Punya Kirte Kurudvaha Swayambhuvasyapi Manor Hare Amsham Sajanmana. Swayambhuvasyapi Manor Hare Ram Sham Sajanmana. Hata Kirtaye Vamsham Nyakirte Burudvaha Swayambhuvasyapi Manor Hare Amsham Shanam. Ata, now. Ataha, hereafter. Kirtaye, I shall describe. Vamsham, dynasty. Punyakirte, celebrated for virtuous activities. Kuru Udvaha, O best of the Kurus. Swayambhuvasya, of Swayambhuva. Api, even. Mano, of the Manu. Hare, of the personality of Godhead. Angsha, plenary expansion. Amsha, part of. Janmana, born of. Translation. Maitreya continued, O best of the Kuru dynasty, I shall now describe before you the descendants of Swayambhuva Manu, who was born of a part of a plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Please repeat. Maitreya continued, O best of the Kuru dynasty, I shall now describe before you the descendants of Swayambhuva Manu, who was born of a part of a plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Brahma is a powerful expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although Brahma is Jiva Tattva, he is empowered by the Lord, and therefore he is considered a plenary expansion of the Supreme Godhead. Sometimes it happens that when there is no suitable living being to be empowered to act as Brahma, the Supreme Lord himself appears as Brahma. Brahma is the plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Swayambhuva Manu was the direct son of Brahma. The great sage Maitreya is now going to explain about the descendants of this Manu, all of whom are widely celebrated for their pious activities. Before speaking of these pious descendants, Maitreya has already described the descendants of impious activities, representing anger, envy, unpalatable speech, quarrel, fear, and death. Purposely, therefore, he is next relating the history of the life of Dhruva Maharaj, the most pious king within the universe. Translation again. Maitreya continued, O best of the Kuru dynasty, I shall now describe before you the descendants of Swayambhuva Manu, who was born of a part of a plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Srimad-Bhagavatam is giving us descriptions of different genealogies of kings, different dynasties, and what makes these kings significant is their devotion. At the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, the great scripture says, Dharma projita kaitava atra, that it kicks out all cheating religion. In other words, it discusses only the pure devotional service, the Lord and His pure devotees and their reciprocation. And Dhruva Maharaj is a very important king because he was such a great devotee. Although he had imperfections, many great devotees do, imperfections in the sense that when the Yakshas killed his brother, he became so angry. Well, that was natural that he became angry. But he started to kill all of them. Although not all of them were responsible for his brother's death, only one was. But he was so angry he was just killing them all. And then the higher authorities intervened and asked him to desist, which he did. So the story of Dhruva Maharaj has some personal significance to me, because when I first met Srila Prabhupada in Boston, I asked him a question, and in reply he referred to Dhruva Maharaj. My question was, this was after a few days of hearing Srila Prabhupada speak. So my question was that I've understood you speak about the importance of service to God. But what about service to man? And Srila Prabhupada replied that to give someone something that fully satisfies him, to the extent that he has no desire for anything else, is that not service? And he said, you know, you give someone something that makes him so completely satisfied, he doesn't desire anything else. And somehow he mentioned no pickpocketing. Like you're satisfied, so, you know, no pickpocketing. Huh? No, he won't pickpocket others because he's satisfied. Yeah, exactly. Now, I prided myself on being a sort of moral person, and I suppose in a way I was. But I did have one weakness that was akin to pickpocketing. I would go, I don't know. Anyway, it shows the power of association. We've been discussing the power of association. So I had a friend who, told me, like, how you could steal from stores. How you just go in and, when no one's looking, you put a little something in your pocket. And, yeah, shoplifting. So I related it to pickpocketing, because like you pick something up and put it in your pocket. So when Srila Prabhupada said no pickpocketing, I felt sort of uneasy. I felt like he knew my weakness, and he was basically saying that if I took to Krishna consciousness, or anyone took to Krishna, if I took to Krishna consciousness, I'd be so satisfied I wouldn't have to pickpocket anymore or shoplift. And then he told the story of Dhruva Maharaj as an example of someone who was so satisfied, and as we know at the end of the story. But I'll lead up to that. It's a wonderful story. So Dhruva Maharaj, as it will be disclosed in the subsequent narration, was a son of Uttanapad, who had two wives, Suruchi and Suniti. And Suruchi was his favorite. And Dhruva was born of the other wife, Suniti. So once when Dhruva was playing on the lap of his father, oh, okay. Oh, his brother was playing on the lap. And then he also tried to get on. And then his stepmother, Suruchi, said, oh, you cannot sit on the throne. You are not born from my womb. So Dhruva, he was hurt and angry. It also shows the effects of too much attachment. Like, the king should have naturally felt affection for his son, Dhruva, and not been hard on him or cruel to him. But because of his excessive attachment to his favorite wife, he acted in a way that was not becoming, not proper. So Dhruva was, hurt. He was angry, and he went to his mother and reported to her what had taken place. And she said, well, it's true, your father has two wives, and he favors his other wife. And, he's going to give the kingdom to her son. So Dhruva Maharaj had he was a Kshatriya. He had a Kshatriya determination. So he asked her, well, what can I do? Who can help me? And she said, well, I don't know. I think only God can help you. And he said, because he's 5 years old now. He said, well, where can I find God? And she said, well, I don't know, but many sages and saintly persons go to the forest to find him. So Dhruva left home. That's the title of this chapter, Dhruva Maharaj leaves home. So Dhruva left home, really strong determination, and went to the forest, and he was looking for God in his own way, as a 5-year-old child. And he was looking in the bushes, looking behind the logs, just looking in that way. And the Lord, and this is a very important principle of devotional service, the Lord, in the heart of Dhruva, understood how sincere and serious Dhruva was to find him. And therefore he sent a spiritual master to guide Dhruva how to reach him. Narada Muni, it's described that the Lord within the heart of Narada Muni, inspired him to go to the forest and meet Dhruva. So Narada Muni, as the spiritual master, tested Dhruva. And he said, Dhruva, you're such a young boy, you're only 5 years old. You shouldn't take these things so seriously. Just go home, be happy, and when you're older you can look for God. But Dhruva Maharaj was determined, and he said, if you can help me find God, that's very good. But if you're going to tell me to go home, then you can go home. So Narada thought, oh, this boy is very serious. And he gave him instructions. So, like it said in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Guru Krishna Prasadi by Bhakti Lata Bij, by the combined mercy of Guru and Krishna, one gets the seat of devotional service. So Narada gave him a mantra to chant with the holy name of the Lord, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and a series of austerities for Dhruva to perform, which were very severe. And Dhruva did it all. He did everything. And eventually, the Lord was pleased, and he came to Dhruva Maharaj. Lord Narayan appeared before Dhruva Maharaj. And, Dhruva Maharaj, well, the Lord touched him on his head with his conch shell. Dhruva Maharaj recited very beautiful prayers. And then the Lord asked Dhruva to accept some benediction. And Dhruva Maharaj refused. And the Lord asked him, well, what about your kingdom? You came to the forest to find me so that you could get your kingdom back. And Dhruva replied, Swamin kritarthosmi varam nayache. That I was looking, referring to his kingdom, I was looking for a broken piece of glass. And now I have gotten you, who are like the most precious jewel. So I am completely satisfied, and I have no desire for any benediction. Swamin kritarthosmi varam nayache. So Srila Prabhupada related this story in connection with his answer to my question about service to man, saying that giving someone something so valuable and satisfying that the person doesn't want anything else, is that not service to man? And so that was the example of Dhruva Maharaj. He became so satisfied just with Krishna that he didn't want anything else. His kingdom, for which he had come to the forest and performed it, he didn't care for it. He was fully satisfied. And Srila Prabhupada also told the story of Alexander the Great. It's very interesting how Srila Prabhupada would relate things that he had learned in school and elsewhere to Krishna consciousness. So Alexander the Great was a great conqueror. He was like conquering the world. Wherever he went, he was conquering. And eventually he came to India. And when he reached the precincts of India, the outskirts, he found a yogi who was performing meditation in the hot sun. And Alexander the Great was very impressed by this sight. So he got down and he approached the yogi and he said, I'm very impressed by you. So I'm ready to give you whatever you want, and any benediction you want, any reward you want, I will give you. And the yogi replied, just please move out of the way of the sun. In other words, he was doing austerities in the heat of the sun, and he was internally satisfied with his austerities. He didn't want anything from Alexander the Great, except that he should just get out of the way of the sun, because he was interfering with the heat that was making his austerities more severe. And then Alexander the Great, he sent a message back to his troops that were following him, that about India, what we call now India, that these people are very special, so don't mess with them. So this is this is a real service, to give someone something that brings him to such a state of satisfaction that he doesn't want anything else. He's fully satisfied. And one thing about greed, greed is sort of well, all these like unwanted qualities, lust, anger, greed, envy, they are, you could say, washed away by bhakti, or overpowered by bhakti. So, anyway. So, just to come back to the purport here. Before speaking of these pious descendants, Maitreya has already described the descendants of impious activities, representing anger, envy, unpalatable speech, quarrel, fear, and death. So those are sort of out of the way. Maitreya got them out of the way, and now he's describing these glorious kings, beginning with, or including Dhruva, so he's describing these descendants, and we're close to Brahma. Brahma is the father, in a way. He's the father of all the living entities in the universe. And so from him came Swayambhuva Manu, and then Priyavrata and Uttanapad and Dhruva. So this Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written a book in which it was actually a series of 12 essays that were put together in a book called Bhakti Aloka. And in this book, he discusses in detail the 6 items favorable for devotional service and the 6 items unfavorable from the nectar of instruction, the Upadeshamrita. So one of the items unfavorable is prajalpa. Who knows what prajalpa is? Raise your hand. Yes, Ganga, what is prajalpa? Yeah, unnecessary talks. Useless talks. But within prajalpa there are different categories. And the worst kind is speaking about others, especially criticizing devotees. That's the worst. So he gives a very thorough and convincing explanation of why we should not speak about others. And one reason is very simple, that it creates enmity. You may say something bad about someone else to your friend, and then you tell your friend, well, I'm just telling you, but don't tell anyone else. But that friend, of course, has his or her friend. He has to tell, and then, his or her friend has his or her friend. He has to share this nectar, and eventually it can get back to the person that you were talking about. That's very practical. Talking about others creates enmity. Of course, it also has effects on our heart, on our consciousness. But of course, speaking favorably of devotees is not proscribed, not prohibited. It's actually recommended. So here in Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a lot of talking about others, and most of it is about devotees and teaching us to appreciate devotees. But some of it is also, you could say, criticizing non-devotees, and that's also a very interesting part of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's discussion, because he says that although in general we don't speak about others, but sometimes a teacher will have to point out a defect in another person in order to instruct his student what to avoid. That's permissible, because that speech is not out of malice, but it is done with a mood to help someone by giving a negative example. So sometimes in the Bhagavatam we also find, negative examples or contrary examples. But it's very interesting, because this the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, the main speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami, a pure devotee who would have no interest in criticizing others. And in fact, in the Upadeshamrita, where Rupa Goswami advises one to faithfully serve a pure devotee who is completely free from the propensity to criticize others. That's what distinguishes a Mahabhagavata, that he's completely free from the propensity to criticize others. In fact, he sees everyone as a pure devotee who's just engaged in service to Krishna. And therefore, when an Uttama Bhakta, therefore an Uttama Bhakta doesn't preach, and when an Uttama Bhakta does preach, in a way he accepts the mood or the vision of a Madhyama Bhakta, who distinguishes Prema, Maitri, Kripa, Upeksha. Prema, he gives his love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maitri, he makes friendship with devotees. Kripa, this means mercy, that's what we're discussing. Kripa, he gives to the innocent people. And Upeksha, that means he neglects the envious. So a preacher has to make those distinctions. But a devotee should always be the well-wisher of everyone. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, commenting on that verse from the Bhagavatam, Prema Maitri Kripa Upeksha, he says that even though the devotee will neglect the envious, but still, as a matter of sadachar, or good behavior, he can pray for that person. And he gave the example of Prahlad Maharaj, who prayed for the welfare of everyone, including his father, who was definitely a demon. So prayer is very powerful. It's beneficial both for us and for the people for whom we pray. And even there have been, of course we don't pray for material things, but there have even been studies of patients who are seriously ill, having groups pray for them. And it was like a controlled study, meaning that the patients who had people praying for them didn't know they did. And the people who didn't have people praying for them also didn't know. And the patients that had people praying for them, they recovered better and faster. So yeah, prayer is very powerful, and it's good for us. And even praying for your enemies, I think, be very good for the heart. Could be good for them too. There was a high school experiment. And in this experiment, the high school students were told to identify the person they disliked the most. And then for 1 month, just be very nice to that person. And then after the month, when they took